Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast with Jim Hoft of the Gateway Pundit, Patty McMurray of 100% Fed Up, and tonight we're joined by the amazing hero attorney up in Antrim County, or he's not up in Antrim County, but representing Bill Bailey, the plaintiff up in the Antrim County voter fraud case. Matt Seeley, a Michigan activist, is going to be joining us hopefully shortly. He was on with us, but it looks like he's up. Here he comes. Here comes Matt Seeley. Michigan activist extraordinaire, conservative activist, is joining us tonight. And we wanted to talk to Matt Deperno. He's been part of an ongoing lawsuit up in Antrim County, trying to get to the bottom of what happened in that election where votes were switched, thousands of votes were switched from Donald Trump to Joe Biden in the election. And today, well, we'll let Matt talk about it. But today, the Judge Elsenheimer up in Antrim County made the decision to dismiss his case up there. So we're going to talk to Matt and kind of get his take on that and tell us, where do you go from here, Matt Deperno?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. So the decision today was, I think, a narrow decision. And as the judge stated, it had nothing to do with any of the evidence we had presented. And all he looked at was one issue, which is whether he could provide relief to the plaintiff. And he said, even if the facts are all true as we present them, can he provide any relief to Bill Bailey? And he determined the answer was no. And he based that on two things: the 2018 amendment to the Constitution. That constitutional amendment states that any voter, any qualified voter, is permitted to audit the statewide election as prescribed by law. And it then goes on to say that this law is self-executing, and that the legislature can pass any law expanding those rights, and that any judge must interpret that constitutional amendment in liberally construe it in favor of the voter in order to protect the intent of the amendment, which is to ensure that there are fair and free elections. Purity of elections is the way it's actually read. So that's the constitutional amendment. And I'll point out that the constitutional amendment came into effect in 2018 as a part of Proposal 3, which was a sort of an election overhaul where we as citizens allowed for mail-in voting and some other things. We view this constitutional amendment, this portion of it, as a give and take of that. In other words, yes, you're allowed to do mail-in voting and these other progressive ideas regarding voting, but we're going to put in a safety valve, which says that the voters are permitted to audit the election. So what happened after that, subsequent to that, the legislature passed a statute that gave power to the Secretary of State to define what she would do in an audit. And so now we have this constitutional amendment that says the Secretary of State's permitted or the voter is permitted to conduct an audit of the statewide election, and a statute that describes or gives power to the Secretary of State to tell us what that audit would look like. So the judge said that based on his reading of those two things, that he determined that she did conduct an audit because she defined what she did as an audit. We may not like it, he said, but that's what we did. And then I think he called on the legislature to fix the problem. He recognizes it's a problem. So that's where we're at. Now we disagree with this on several fronts. One being that the constitutional amendment states only that the legislature could expand on the rights in the 2018 amendment, not limit them. And this subsequent statute limits rights of voters because it shifts all the control to the Secretary of State and gives her the ability to define what an audit is. So presumably, she could say that in order to trigger an audit, you have to fill out 50 forms in triplicate on pink paper in a certain font, pay $50,000, and then she will go to 5 designated precincts and look at 1 ballot each. And she could call that an audit under the statute. And I think that's the flaw in that argument. And I don't think he looked at this. He didn't liberally construe the amendment in favor of the voter in order to ensure purity of elections. Because if he did that, he would have to look at all the evidence that we've presented. And that would have basically destroyed the argument he was trying to make. So those are problems that we see in the decision he made. I don't think he was looking to safeguard the purity of elections clause. So with that, we would intend to appeal that decision.
Great. Hey, Matthew, I had a couple questions. That was Matthew Deperno. Sorry, Matthew Seeley. And a couple questions. Were you surprised by this decision? And it seems a bit frustrating that they didn't even look at the information that you gave them last week, and then some more information that you released this weekend. So was this a huge surprise for you?
No, I've been doing this too long to be surprised, and I've long ago stopped trying to predict what a judge is going to do. You just can't. The best you can do is make your argument and hope that he rules in your favor. And you lose too much time, frankly, trying to predict a judge's decision, because what I've learned is judges make decisions based on where they want to go or what they want to do. They don't always follow the law to get to a decision. You see, there's 2 paths to a decision. One is you file the law and you get there. Whatever it is the decision. Other judges say, I want this to be the decision, and then figure out how to backfill that. So you can't predict what judges are going to do. So I wasn't surprised. I wasn't anything other than that's what he decided, and now our strategy focuses how. Yeah.
But the big news here tonight is it sounds like you're going to move forward and you're going to appeal this decision.
Yeah, but keep in mind that Antrim County, in our view, is a stepping stone. This isn't all we're working on. What we've got from Antrim County has been a gold mine in terms of our overall strategy. So Antrim County is a piece of the puzzle. It's not my team's entire picture, is what I'm saying to you, and never has been, really. It's always been an avenue to gain information that is helpful to not only our team in other areas, but also the country. and other people working on other things. We've got a ton of information out of Antrim County, and people shouldn't discount that. What we've done in 6 months is remarkable.
Absolutely. And so when you say it's a stepping stone, then that must mean that you have future plans that is not just with Antrim County, but with the state of Michigan or something. Can you give us any information on that?
Well, there's other states involved. I don't want to reveal anything too early, but we've been looking at other states and certainly other counties within the state of Michigan that are all relevant to the ultimate goal, which is to figure out exactly what happened on election night and ensure that voters' votes actually are properly recorded at the tabulator and then properly cast.
I'm sorry,
at
Matt.
Yeah.
Matt, you're kind of cutting out. Could you repeat what you said again? Because you cut out. I know I didn't hear you, so I want to make sure that everybody hears what you said. If you could repeat it again, you kind of cut out there.
Yeah, I said that our goal ultimately has always been that we ensure that people's vote is properly recorded at the tabulator and then properly counted at the EMS. That's our overall strategy, always has been, and how do we get to that conclusion is the question. What's the roadmap we take? That roadmap has gone through Antrim County. That's where we got the forensic images. And that has been truly a gift that keeps giving. Yeah.
So if I could just jump in real quick. Yesterday, Matt held a press conference up in Traverse City, and he invited the media to show up. I know that 100% Fed Up showed up, and we videotaped the press conference. And I know that Jim was also sharing the live press conference on the Gateway Pundit. But outside of that, there weren't too many media sources that were interested in listening to what Matt Deperno had to say. He promised that he was going to reveal some important and relevant information related to their findings, but the media didn't seem to care too much. Matt, maybe you can tell us what happened today after the judge's decision. It seemed to be the media had a miraculous recovery and curiosity over the case up in Antrim County.
Yeah, everyone contacted me today. I got contacted by CNN, the Washington Post, you name it, the New York Times. That no one who's ever whispered anything about our case or any of the evidence we put out contacted me today about this case looking for comment. I didn't know they knew that we existed.
Huh. Sad. How about that?
Yeah, I mean,
not a surprise at all. And with the state of our media today in the United States, it's just they're just a branch of the DNC, as we all know.
Right. And how did you respond, Matt, out of curiosity, to the media request by the all-important mainstream media?
I didn't contact any of them back. I didn't respond to any of them. I only responded, I think, to one local paper up, the Record Eagle up in Traverse City, who actually has acknowledged our case, but only in the form of how many hit pieces they could write throughout the process. I did respond to them and ask them if their government masters had allowed them to come out and talk about our case again.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to point out when we talk about the Record Eagle and the local publications up there. So after we finished with the press conference, I drove about an hour away back to a different location. And on the way there, we drove through most of Antrim County, and it's incredible how many Trump signs there still are outside in front of homes, Trump flags, Trump signs. We passed a big banner that said Trump won the election, hanging from a window, Trump 2024. It's just incredible how much support there is for Trump in Antrim County. And I know how much support there is because I was at the press conference yesterday, and we talked to some women that drove up from the Detroit area to show their support for you. They drove up together. There were people from as far away as Sault Ste. Marie which is, for people that aren't familiar with Michigan, that's up in the Upper Peninsula, drove down from the Upper Peninsula to show their support. After the press conference where Matt spoke with a room filled with patriots and people that were supporting him, there was a rally held in Antrim County near the county courthouse, not at the county courthouse, but near the courthouse. And there were well over 100 people there. And again, people were coming from all over the place to show their support for Matt Deperno, for the plaintiff, Bill Bailey, and for the continuation of this case. So the support in Michigan is overwhelming. It's not just in northern Michigan, it's across the state for this case to continue, Matt. And I don't know, Matt, Celia, do you want to jump in? Because I know that you have the similar experience, downstate here in Michigan.
I was at an event tonight, and your name came up, Matt. People started applauding. It was really great. There were about 75 Republicans that met in the East Side Republican Club. And a lot of people were just totally deflated that the judge made the ruling that he made. And I had basically communicated to them that it was a technical ruling, that it was more procedural than it was about the meat and the core of your case. Can you give us a little bit of an overview as far as a timeline and what you expect out of the appeal process?
Yeah, well, we'll probably file a motion to reconsider within the next 21 days, probably sooner. And then we will see how that goes. We think there's basis for the judge to reconsider his ruling. And I correct you on one thing, Matt. It wasn't a kind of sort of mostly about procedural. It was entirely procedural, and we have to make sure that we're clear on that. This had zero to do with any evidence. This was entirely a very limited issue that he ruled on. So then we'll see how that comes out, and then we'll file the case with the Court of Appeals. And I don't know how long it'll take them to make a decision. But that doesn't stop us. That's the interesting thing about this. We're not stopped from continuing to find evidence and push out evidence that we discover. We're going to continue to test and look at how these machines function, because there's a lot more to learn. I'm telling you, there are layers and layers and layers of how these machines operate. They're actually designed to send you down these rabbit holes to where everyone says, oh, don't look at us. We don't know how that works. We don't know how that functions. This is a design, a sort of a conspiracy in a sense. I don't like to use that word necessarily, but the whole system is designed so that every time you get to a point where you find a problem, there's no one to ask about that problem. So for instance, we asked the Secretary of State to describe to us how these voting systems work. And last Friday, she responded by saying, we don't know. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the system functions. I don't know how it calculates votes. I don't know how the code works. I don't know how the tabulator works. I don't know how people report results. So they don't know. And even if you then want to review the information, they will tell you, oh, well, you have to have your experts certified by the EAC. Well, you look at who is on the EAC, and you find out that the EAC is actually controlled by former DVS employees. I mean, this is a complex design, a complex web, layers and layers of fraudulent activity is what we see.
So the follow-up to my question is, real quick, is obviously if you're continuing on and there's so much more to go into, how are you affording this, Matt? I mean, what can we do to help your cause?
Well, that's a great question. Our case is primarily funded by taxpayers, people, $50 and $100 donations, $5 donations. I've got as low as $3 donations from people. who want to contribute. Really, truly, many people have contributed to this. And one day, I'm telling you, that's the story that will be written. One of the stories is it really was a grassroots effort in this case to help us out. We would never have been able to accomplish it except for these many people who donated, what they could to this cause. So
I
that's
I just want you to know there's a lot of people out there that want to support what you're doing. They don't know how to do that. So if there's any information you can give us so that we can communicate to them how they can be part of it, that would be a big help.
Yeah, the people can go to my website, depernolaw.com, and there's several ways for people to donate, several links to donate. They could click those links and donate with a credit card, or they could send checks directly to my office at P.O. Box 1595, Portage, Michigan 49081. So that's a lot of people do that. A lot of people don't trust the big tech, and I get it, and don't want to donate through the website, so they send checks, and that's totally fine also.
And our awesome producer has already put a link underneath, or the name of depernolaw.com that's scrolling across the bottom for anybody who missed that. So if anybody wants to help Matt. That was a great question, by the way, Matt. So I appreciate you asking that. I did see people yesterday after Matt was finished with his press conference. Somebody put a hat out and was asking for donations. And I did see people going by. And, these are people that don't have a lot, right? I mean, a lot of these people were farmers, people that, maybe struggling to get by. They were all throwing $5, $10 into the hat. I watched it happening. And it was a really beautiful thing because those people really do appreciate what you're doing, Matt. I wanted to ask you just a couple things. One,
hang on, let me keep talking, but I want to show you something, but I'll listen to you. I want to show you something, but ask your question.
Okay, all right. So for the people that don't know, Matt Deperno's law office was broken into last Friday. Somebody broke the lock in his office and entered his office and actually broke into his office. Of course, this was just a couple days before the judge made his decision today. So we don't really know what they were going after, but we do know that somebody broke into his office. And then Matt was supposed to hold his press conference yesterday at the VFW hall until the VFW hall received threats about his appearance there. So somebody somewhere, some group doesn't want Matt Deperno to get out the information that he wants to share with people. That's pretty clear. And then that kind of leads me to the next thing that I want to talk about. Today, I noticed that the judge said that he wasn't going to say that there wasn't corruption in the election or that the election wasn't corrupted. Do you remember him saying that, Matt?
Yeah. He acknowledged that there were problems in Antrim County. Yeah, right. No question about it. But look at this, Patty. This is just a box.
Wow.
This is not the emails I received. That many emails. These are just letters from people.
Oh, wow.
These are letters.
Wow.
That people have sent expressing the fears that they have over the election and what happened, and wanting to make sure that something happens, that there's some investigation, and there's nowhere to turn other than our group right now. We're the only one really doing anything. I mean, I'm telling you, if Senator McBroom ever wanted to know what was happening in this election, I would sit down with him, explain to him all the evidence we have, show him demonstrations, and let him read these letters. You cannot read these letters and not feel compelled to fix this system. And so I would encourage him, if he could get up the courage to meet with me. He doesn't want to do that because, truthfully, I sued him once on behalf of a client. He got angry about that. But man up and get over it, and let's fix this problem instead of complaining continuously about the fact that he was a defendant in a lawsuit in the past. So let's move on from that and figure out this problem for these people's sake. Really, these people want answers, and it's our legislature that needs to do it. And what I've tried to do is help them, give them encouragement, show them real evidence of what happened in this election so that they could have cover, so that they could have courage to rise up and conduct an audit of some of these counties in the state, just like they're doing in Maricopa.
Could I ask a question?
You know, that's probably
with,
the go ahead.
Representative or Senator McBroom, correct?
Yeah.
Could you guys describe who he is and what his role is and how important it is to reach out to him? Because a lot of people not in Michigan don't know who this guy is.
Yeah, Senator McBroom's a senator from the Upper Peninsula. He's actually been the person who spearheaded the charge to, as he calls it, investigate the election through congressional hearings. I think that's a weak term to use. I don't think he necessarily investigated anything, but he at least put on a show. But he's the guy in charge. He's a former representative before he became a senator. And as a representative, he was one of the people who appropriated the money to purchase these machines.
Jesus.
Okay, and is he in charge of the Senate then? And is there should we contact his office? Should we tell people to contact this Senator McBroom?
Yeah, everyone should contact him, and they should also contact Senator Shirkey, who's the Senate leader.
Majority leader. Yeah, he's
Senate
the majority leader.
leader. Senator McBroom is just a senator who was designated. I think he runs the.
He's the chair of the Oversight Committee.
That's right, the chair of the Oversight Committee. So, you should contact all of your senators. That's how Maricopa started, was a grassroots movement to contact representatives and let them know that you want this. If enough people want it, it will happen. So what we did was we put out so much information that we had hoped they could use to investigate or at least talk to us. We're willing to meet with any of them at any time to discuss our findings and show them what happened, show them the level of sort of the sophistication of this fraud in a sense. And not one of them has, two people have contacted me in the entire House of Representatives, and it's been Matt Maddock and Tristan Cole before he left office.
So the only active member in Congress in our Michigan Republican-led House and Senate that you've spoken with is Matt Maddock on this issue. That's agreed to speak with you and at least hear what you had to say. Whether he agreed with you or not, he at least agreed to listen to you and hear what you had to say. Is that correct? That's
correct. Otherwise, the rest of them are told by their caucus leaders that if they talk to me, they will be removed from committees and their funding will be cut off for future elections.
Holy cow. Wow.
No, it's run like a crime in a syndicate, I have a question, Matt. One of the big, I think, misunderstandings is the use of the word audit. Okay. In the state of Michigan, when they do an audit, that's basically a count. They don't actually look and examine the actual ballots. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. The Secretary of State put out a publication on her own website. It's called Post-Election Audit Procedures. I think they put it out in 2019, and it describes what an actual audit is, and it's quite detailed. And it examines signatures on absentee ballots. It examines paper. It examines votes. It examines procedures that led up to the election, whether you properly performed the test decks, whether you sent the proper notices before elections. It is quite comprehensive in every way. It's a pre-election audit and post-election audit is quite comprehensive. That's their own publication. Our problem is...
Did they do that? Did they do that?
Do they do it?
Did they do that?
No, they've never done that. They haven't done any of that. No, nothing. Nothing at all. No.
Well, how does that work?
Well, the problem is that we have this statute that was then enacted that says that the Secretary of State is permitted to determine what an audit is. And she can set the procedures now, and as I said, define it in any way she wants to. It can be the most minimum thing ever, as long as she calls it an audit. It's like the old adage, just because it quacks, doesn't mean it's a duck, right? And she can call it whatever she wants. Just because she calls a goose a duck doesn't mean it's a duck. It's still a goose, and that's what she's doing. She's defining an audit in any way that suits her. And not only that, but she's a defendant in this case. So our judge gave the defendant the right to determine whether they did a proper audit.
Wow.
And wait, you mentioned to me today too, Matt, that not only did he make that ruling, but he also made it based on a statement, right? It wasn't something that she said in court or that her attorney represented. Isn't that correct? It's just a statement that she made.
Well, it's worse than that, because her attorney actually represented during our hearing that there was no audit. He said that on the record. He made a record of it. And I caught him in it during the hearing, and I said, Judge, you have to pick up on what he just said. He said there's been no audit. So what the judge did today is he said, I recognize that opposing counsel, or the counsel for Secretary of State, said there was no audit. However, the Secretary of State has published several press releases, and in her press releases, she has said that she did an audit. And then he said, and now the plaintiff's counsel will probably object and say that that's hearsay, because it is. He says, however, I will take notice of her press releases as evidence. That's wrong. That's not evidence. Does not meet the standard for admissible evidence.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah, and Matthew, you said earlier that your investigation will continue, and that I think you mentioned that you have access to a voting machine. Is that correct? And do you still have that access?
Well, we don't want to talk. We don't want to talk about that.
Okay. Fine. Here's another question. We've seen similar situations in other states now, Matthew, as you're very familiar with, I'm sure. Today there was a primary election in Pennsylvania, and they found that the machines there were not counting the Republican ballots, not counting votes for Republicans. And so is this a surprise to you? Is this just something that, are you starting to see that this is something that is a pattern across the United States? Is it just with one voting machine company, or are you seeing this with other companies? Were you able to hear me?
No, I can't hear you. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. Can you guys hear me, Patty?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay. Let me repeat that. Yeah. Let me repeat that, Matthew. This is for Matt Deperno. And I was asking, there has been other reports of voting machines in other places that have had similar situations like they did in Antrim County. And today there was a primary vote in Pennsylvania, in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, and the machines were not counting votes for the Republican candidates. Does this surprise you? Is this something that you're only seeing with one voting machine company, or is this something that is widespread across the country?
Yeah, we've seen that across the country. We've seen exactly what you're talking about, and we've been following that story. So all I can tell you is that we're aware of it, and it's part of our investigation, what's happening out there.
Great. So your investigation, then, you're saying tonight, consists of other states than just Michigan?
It does.
That's important to know.
Yeah.
And so, Matt, when do you plan to appeal the case?
We don't know, probably within the next 21 days, but we're still looking at what our legal strategy is on that.
Matt, I think there's a lot of people that
Is there
might think
kind of-
that it's too late, maybe, and that the election was months ago. What do you have to say to those people about contacting the Senate, the Republicans in Michigan? What do you think?
Well, what I think is we have to fix the problem. That's what we have to do. We have to fix what's actually happened here. And people need to take, I mean, if we don't fix it now, we never will, apparently. This will just be a problem in future elections and forever. And that we can't have a system that runs like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just today, the House in Michigan held hearings. They listened to testimony from citizens about the voter fraud issues. And there were some pretty good people that testified today. And hopefully Jim and I can follow up with Dr. Linda Lee Tarver, who spoke about our dishonest Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, giving access to our voter rolls, giving access to Rock the Vote, far left, basically a Democrat organization who had access to our voter rolls. And according to Linda Lee, they were given access to all Michigan registered voters, addresses, birth dates, social security numbers. Pretty much all of our private data was given to Rock the Vote. And Linda Lee Tarver is in the middle of a lawsuit with our dishonest Secretary of State over giving that information up to these third-party far-left organizations. So this isn't the end of this story. In Michigan, residents are not giving up on this fight against voter fraud in our state.
No, and they should not. So we agree with that. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, is there any kind of coordination or similar work being done by Attorney Wood and Powell, or is that just, are you guys all just separate entities going in your own direction?
Yeah, that's I can tell you that we're not involved with those groups.
Okay.
Yeah, Matt Deperno
They
is
were so vocal after the election. And I was really curious to see if there was any type of coordination. It seems, Matt, like you're the only one who's really been on the front lines, going into the courtroom, going into the battlefield, so to speak. And, you know, a lot of people, I think, see these other personalities on TV and believe that maybe they're following through with their rhetoric, but really you're the ones who actually been putting the action behind the words.
Yeah, a lot of people are raising money and not many people are doing anything.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was taking things with my question.
Yeah, I wouldn't put a lot of faith in some of the other stuff you're hearing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
excellent. Well, I don't have anything else.
If you want
unless-
to,
No, I appreciate you having me on tonight. Really do.
Fantastic. God bless you.
Thanks.
Thanks for your work.
Yep.
Yeah,
Take
and
care, guys.
thanks for coming on and filling us in on the latest update on the case. And we'll be in touch with you. And anything new that you have, please share it with us. You know that the honest conservative media will get your story out to the masses.
Absolutely.
All right. I appreciate it.
Matt,
Thanks a lot.
thank you for your effort. You're a true hero to many of us, and we appreciate you not giving up on this.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jim. Thanks,
All
Patty.
right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of My Pillow.
Yep,
Thanks to your support,
I agree.
you've helped make My Pillow become one of the fastest growing
And
companies
before we
in
go,
America.
and before we go, I want
Over the
to
last
thank
12
Mike
years,
Lindell.
My Pillow
Before we go, I want to
created
thank Mike
thousands of
Lindell
jobs
for
right here in
sponsoring our
the
podcast
USA.
tonight too.
When I
Mike
got
Lindell
My
has been very
Pillow,
generous with
I'm
his.
asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well rested in the morning.
That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled My Pillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to mypillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all My Pillow products. For example, you can get my premium My Pillows regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit my